So today is a particularly exciting episode. We're here with Stacy Cole, who was the winner of the 2023 Rookie of the Year, as recognized by RISMedia. Stacy closed 54 transactions for over $10 million in sales in her first year in real estate in a small town near Mobile, Alabama. Stick with us to hear how Stacy utilized her network and her local expertise of her small town to build her business from the ground up. Stacy shares the lessons she learned from her early days in real estate, which leads her to the tips and tricks that she has for you today.
Welcome to Unlocking Real Estate, My First Commission, where we dive into real stories, big wins, and early lessons learned from highly successful rookie real estate agents and brokers. This is the series where we explore how real estate transforms lives, one home at a time, by sitting down each week with a new agent or broker who has found incredible success in their first year. Your hosts are instructors and leaders at Colibri Real Estate School, one of the largest real estate educators in the nation, where we focus on helping people like you get started or find continued success in their careers.
Hello, and welcome to Unlocking Real Estate, My First Commission. I'm your host, Tina Lapp. I've been in real estate education for over 30 years, helping individuals enter and thrive in their real estate careers.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Tina. My name is Mark Ruff. I am a real estate broker in the state of California. I received my real estate license in 1988 and my broker's license here in 1996. I'm also a licensed real estate instructor in the state of Washington, and I teach real estate classes here at the school. And I'm really looking forward, Tina, to chatting with Stacy today.
Thanks, Mark. So today is a particularly exciting episode. We're here with Stacy Cole, who was the winner of the 2023 Rookie of the Year, as recognized by RISMedia. Stacy closed 54 transactions for over $10 million in sales in her first year in real estate in a small town near Mobile, Alabama. Stick with us to hear how Stacy utilized her network and her local expertise of her small town to build her business from the ground up. Stacy shares the lessons she learned from her early days in real estate, which leads her to the tips and tricks that she has for you today. Hello, we are here today with Stacy Cole, who is the 2023 Rookie of the Year, recognized by RISMedia. We're excited to have you here today. Stacy, will you take a moment to introduce yourself, where you live, and what company you're with?
Yes, my name is Stacy Cole, and I am with Realty Executives Bay Group, and we are based out of Mobile County in Saraland, Alabama. So we're about 10 minutes out of Mobile, or from Mobile. So yeah, I like to call it the North Mobile County area. So
Now, Stacy, tell me one thing. Because when I was first thinking of going into real estate, before I had this idea, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was working in my aunt's accounting office, doing some bookkeeping work, and didn't have any clue. What were you doing before you got into real estate?
So I was a middle school math teacher at like a local Christian school of ours. And I did that for several years. And then when my youngest was born, I actually quit that to stay at home with them. And I quickly realized I was not the stay-at-home type. I needed something to do. So I went to manage a Mom's Day Out program at our local church. And I was only supposed to be there for 3 months. Turned out I was there for 4 years. And during that time of me doing that at the Mom's Day Out is whenever I decided to get my real estate license. And I was going to do both because I thought I was going to be a part-time real estate agent. But anybody who is in the real estate industry knows that there's no such thing as a part-time real estate agent. So I quit that and I just do real estate full-time now.
Got it. Thank you for sharing that. And was there like a specific moment, or maybe like a particular individual or a person who may have helped influence that decision?
Well, I also used to take pictures. I had a photography business on the side, and I was taking headshots of this agent who had just recently got her license. And I was telling her that I had been thinking about it, and I had talked to a few friends of mine who were real estate agents, but they kind of scared me away because of everything that you had to do and what you had to keep up with and stuff like that as far as licensing and continuing education. So after I talked to her for a while, she sent me a link to it was Real Estate Express, but now Calibri Real Estate. And just one day I bought the course and I finished it, I think maybe in less than 2 months. So.
That's pretty quick.
Yes.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. So Stacy, walk us through that process. We have a lot of people like thinking about a career in real estate. You're busy. It sounds like you were doing a whole lot of things. How'd you take the classes? How'd you sort of juggle classes with everything else you were doing?
Well, I specifically waited until my children were older because I knew with young children it would be very hard to do an online course. And I'm old school, had went to college to class, and I had never done any kind of online course before. And I will say Calibri Real Estate was very user-friendly for somebody who had never done an online course before. So every evening after the kids went to bed, I was shut in a room by myself for at least 2 or 3 hours a night getting that course done because I couldn't focus on anything else until that course was finished.
Yeah, very disciplined though. Like you sort of put aside the time, put it in.
Oh, yes.
That's great. And how long did you say it took you to get through the classes?
I bought the course in mid-March and I took the test, I think right before school was out in May, like my kids' school was out in May. Maybe a little
pretty quick
months.
Though. I mean, 2 months to a new career, not bad. And how did you?
A lot of dedication.
Yeah. How did you choose Calibri?
Well, the lady that I was taking the headshots for, she told me that she had used Calibri Real Estate and it was very user friendly and they had different packages to choose from. So I just hopped on there and I mean, the website was very user-friendly as well, like easy to go in and purchase the material. And I just decided, I didn't even do any kind of research. I just decided to go with them. So, and it was good. I've actually referred several people to Calibri Real Estate.
That's great. We thank you for that. So how'd you do, like, how was the exam? How'd you prepare? What were the biggest challenges kind of getting there?
Well, again, I'm kind of old school, so I had to have like pen and paper. So the quizzes and stuff like that was at the end. I think there was like a chapter review or something. Now, this was a while ago, so I can't quite remember, but there was a chapter review and quizzes throughout each chapter. I had a notebook, and I actually wrote down everything in that notebook, and I would constantly read over that stuff over and over and over. So, yeah, I did a lot of studying. Never put the study guides down, actually.
Well, congratulations. You got there, right? The first barrier, get past the test, and now you're licensed, right?
Yes.
Stacy, tell me, as an instructor here in the school, when I first start a new cohort coming in to learn the material, principles, practice, and so forth, on the very first day of class, I always ask students to take their handbook or their notebook and to write down the very first full year income, what they'd like to generate. And then what I ask them to do is I ask them to cross it out and double it. I have a question for you. What were your expectations for the first year in real estate?
My expectation was to close one house a month. That's all I wanted to do.
Okay, cool.
Because I wanted to be a part-time real estate agent. And then after a couple months in the business, well, maybe about 3 or 4 months, I quickly realized it's not part-time. And then that was about the time that I made the decision to quit the Mom's Day Out because it was either I was over here, I was over there, and I couldn't focus on one thing. And I knew I wanted my real estate career to take off. So I gave up the Mom's Day Out, which was not meant for me anyway. That's not something that I would want to do forever, but the real estate is. The real estate is something that I really enjoy. So,
Good,
but yeah, I wanted to close one house a month. Okay,
and then let me piggyback on that. After you got your real estate license and you started in the business, how long did it take you to close your first deal and get to the money?
It was probably, I would say maybe 2 to 4 months. I can't quite remember, but what I did after I passed the Calibri real estate exam, and then I also had to take the Alabama state testing, and I will tell you, I did not pass the first time. And I was devastated because I had never straight A student, never failed anything in my life. That Alabama real estate test was hard. I told myself, well, no, I'm just not going to do it. It's not meant to be. Well, my husband told me, yes, I was going to go back and take it again. So I took it again and I passed. And then after I did that, I sent private messages, like Facebook messages, to all of my friends on Facebook and told them, hey, I just got my real estate license, because I didn't tell anybody I was doing it. The only people that knew were my children and my husband that I was doing the real estate course. So after I passed everything, I got my license and all of that, I sent private messages to everybody and told them, hey, I got my real estate license. If you ever need any real estate help, please keep me in mind. And that's where my business took off. I had people message me back and say, oh, yeah, well, we've been looking for land, or, oh, well, we, want a bigger house, or we want to get out of this rental. And it just went from there. And I remember it was a friend of mine who she sent a message back and was like, yeah, we've been looking for land. I was like, oh, I can help you find some land. So we found land, and then they wanted to go ahead and sell their house, and they were going to temporarily live in an apartment while they built. So we put an offer in on the land, and they were my first residential listing. And that property actually sold for $15,000 over asking.
Good.
So,
I'll bet your seller was very happy.
I will never forget those clients. They were my very first ones who trusted me to help them.
Got it. So it took about 2 to 4 months to close your first transaction. Mine took 5. And I tell my students, even if you walked into the door with a contract, it's going to take you, a month or 2 to get it closed.
At least 30 days.
Anyway, right. Got it. Now, after you started, then what kind of helped establish your credibility to potential clients? Was there anything that kind of helped you up there? You have a math background. We're all salespeople, whether we like it or not. What helped establish your credibility?
It was a lot of word of mouth. I had a lot of contacts through the Mom's Day Out that I managed, that I was only supposed to be there for 3 or 4 months. So, God always has a plan, and it was a blessing that I was there for so long, because a handful of those parents have come to me to help sell their house. Like, I have one listing now, my highest listing to date, $765,000, and I had her child at the Mom's Day Out. So it was a lot of that. I've grown up in this community, forever. So my kids are highly involved in our city schools, Saraland City Schools, which is an award-winning school system in Alabama. So they're involved in that. We're involved in our church. So, we're established, I guess you could say, here in the Saraland community. And then it was really just word of mouth and referrals, and that's how a real estate business grows.
Got it. And you know what? Tina and I were chatting just before you came on, right before we started. And I wanted to just chat with you. Tina's got some more questions for you, of course, but could you just riff just for a moment on what other marketing channels were successful for you? I understand sphere of influence was phenomenally important for you. Can you just kind of talk on that just for a moment? SOI.
Like as far as how I market my material?
Yeah. How did you kind of dig into that database of people that you know? What marketing channels were effective? SOI sounds like one. How did you do it?
Like social media?
Yeah, or the contacts that we have in our phone, right? Our sphere of influence.
Social media, follow-ups. I don't know if that's the correct answer to that question, but just following up. If somebody even mentioned real estate, I'm following up with them at least twice or once a week. But a lot of word of mouth, and then I'll sometimes even send business cards with my kids to school, or even like if I'm giving teachers a little gift or something like that, I'll attach my business card to it. So
put them to work, right? Put them to work.
Yes.
I got it. So sphere of influence is very important. One little bullet point here. Could you talk briefly about open houses? It's my understanding, I did a lot of them when I first got my license. My broker said, just go out there and do as many open houses as you can. Tell me about that. Was that successful for you? If not, how did you kind of rebound? If they weren't initially successful, were they eventually?
So you're going to hear different opinions from different real estate agents. Yeah. You're going to hear that there's real estate agents who do not do open houses at all. They don't work, and they're not wasting their time doing it. For me, I like open houses because, one, you advertise with personalized signs. My name, my picture, all of that's on there. So you put these out around town, people riding past them are going to be like, that real estate agent is actually out working.
Right.
whether I have had open houses where I've had 0 people come through, and I've had open houses where I've had 10 plus come through. So you never know how successful an open house is going to be, but the people in the community see who's putting in the work.
Yeah.
And I will do open house. Actually, I'm planning one for this weekend. Actually, I'm planning one for this Sunday. And I'll sometimes do grand opening open houses. So I say, even if you have no people come through, consumers are still seeing what agents are out there.
And your signs are up.
Yes, that's the thing. You put signs all over town. I hear people tell me all the time, I see your signs all over town. You're taking over Saraland. And, it's open house signs. It's even little tiny signs that says house for sale with an arrow pointing.
Yeah.
And they know that, that real estate agent has another listing. So I'm all for open houses. But if you ask somebody else, they might say something completely different.
There is both a randomness and a predictability to this, and I think that's the open house.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, Stacy, first of all, you mentioned not passing the exam the first time a little while ago. By the way, for those listeners here, like passing that exam the first time or not is not a prediction of how well you're going to do in the real estate industry. It is that first barrier. Stick with it, get through it. I'm so glad your husband pushed you to do it. Like, it's, everyone can get past that exam. There's no doubt. So congratulations on pursuing and going through it, but it really not an indication of your success in the industry, right?
Exactly.
So talk a little bit more about social media. What social media did you utilize, and what did you post? Like, what kinds of things were you posting?
So I utilize Facebook most of the time, but my Facebook is linked to my Instagram, so it automatically goes to my Instagram, but I'm really bad about checking Instagram, and I need to get better. Those are the 2 main ones. I have a TikTok account, but I'm just not one to be in front of the camera yet. So I'm working on that. But I will sometimes take videos because I take my marketing very seriously. And I'm not one, to take cell phone pictures or anything like that. So I invest with each listing I have. Automatically, there's money out of my pocket in investing in marketing because I think that that's important. But Facebook was probably the main one that I use. And I like to do a mixture of business and personal because if I'm constantly posting houses for sale or stuff about real estate, people are just going to keep on scrolling after a while. So I have to throw in personal stuff too. We're big in the community. So, if new businesses open up, I'm sharing about that and supporting your local businesses here. So I think it needs to be a fine line of real estate, of personal, of supporting your local businesses. But Facebook is my main social media outlet. Okay.
And you really have established yourself as the expert in your area of all things going on. And so people turn to you for that information. Is that true? Yeah.
Yes. I have worked really hard to do that. Right when I first started, like I told myself, I want to be the Saraland real estate agent just because, my kids are involved in the school system. I have grown up here. I know the area very, very well. Of course, I would take a listing somewhere else, but I would also, ask myself am I doing my client a disservice for not knowing the area well. I did have a listing over across the bay in Daphne, closer to the beach. And, I took the listing. It was a friend of mine. And then, the house sat on the market. And I'm not used to my houses just sitting on the market. And I didn't know the area well. And I told him, I said, listen, I don't want to refer this listing out, but I said, I don't want to do you a disservice. I'm friends with an agent who knows the area well. I said, I want to pass this listing on to him. And, this agent would do the same for me because I know the area where I'm at well. So I just, I like to service the area that I know well because that's better for my clients, I guess.
Yeah. and it is a differentiator. Like, you are the expert, and it's a great way to establish credibility, right? You know the area and you're responsive. So you go through school, you get started. what were your biggest challenges? Everyone always asks, like, I'm licensed. Now what? Like, how do I get started? What do I do? Like, what were your biggest challenges and how'd you overcome them?
So, biggest challenges, I guess one was like disappointment. Like if somebody chose another real estate agent over me, like first I was like, oh, well, what did I do wrong? Why didn't they choose me? But I've come to realize, there's some people we are meant to work with and there are some people we are not meant to work with. And, real estate is not the best all the time. I mean, sometimes you're going to have clients that are difficult. Sometimes you're going to have people that are rude and ugly. And, I learned early on, I had a transaction that just didn't go well. And I have learned early on that no commission check is worth working with somebody who is rude, who is ugly, and who just treats you disrespectfully. So, there are challenges. I mean, there was one week where I had, deals fall apart, listings withdrawn, that's going to happen in real estate. But then like over the last 5 weeks, I've had 6 new listings. So it's like you have disappointment and then you turn around and, you got new listings coming. So I don't know if I completely answered that question.
Well, the ups and downs, right? The unpredictability and
absolutely. Yeah. And the pay is not predictable, so real estate agents, we have to save for taxes. We have to save for fees and, all of our license renewal and stuff like that, because the market is like this, it might be great for a couple months, then it might be slow. Like last summer, I don't think I had a closing in maybe 2.5 months just because the summer was so slow for me. But January, I mean, it picked up and it has been steady ever since. But I mean, you just never know with real estate.
It does take discipline for sure, managing the financial aspects without a doubt.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what about transactions? Like this is your first time, your first year. I know it's been a couple of years now, but did you have a mentor, a support system? Like where'd you go when you had questions, when you're going through a transaction? You're like, I don't know the answer to this.
My broker is wonderful. And I actually interviewed a few brokers, and there was one office in Mobile that I was considering going to, but then I knew I wanted to service our local area, the North Mobile County area. So I interviewed with another broker, and I grew up with his kids. I actually I worked for him when he had an insurance office years ago, back when I was in high school. So I interviewed with him, and I just knew that was where I needed to go. Like our office is right in the middle of Saraland. It's right down from my daughter's middle school. So anytime I would have any kind of question, anytime, there was an issue with a deal or something like that, he was always my go-to. And it doesn't matter if I text him at 6 a.m. in the morning or 10 p.m. at night, he's going to answer me. So he was my go-to. So, and then I have, some real estate agent friends who have been in the business longer than I have, and I'll ask them questions and ask them for advice. And I hope, one day, years from now, that I'll be that for somebody who is just, coming into the business.
Yeah. And that, like, people helping people in this business is so critical, and having that call a friend or somebody to help support you, it sounds like it's made a big positive impact, and you've got a pretty great sphere that's surrounding you, it sounds like.
It's tough to do alone. It's tough to do alone.
It is. And that's the thing, of course, everybody wants the listing. Everybody wants that buyer. But, I guess in a way we are in competition with each other, but also we do business with each other every day. So all of our goals as an agent is to get to that closing table. So, I've learned that we just all need to get along.
I love that. So any funny or memorable experiences from your first year where maybe you goofed on something or had a particularly interesting home or transaction that you can recall?
Uh, oh gosh, there's so many. Some I probably don't need to share to the
Yeah.
world. I really can't think of anything like right off the
Yeah.
bat.
So as you were going
Yeah.
through and you were reaching out to clients in your sphere of influence, right? You said you reached out to everyone, all your contacts, and I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
you were referred to people maybe you hadn't met before. How'd you build that
Mm-hmm.
relationship with them?
Uh, First, you need to get to know them. It's not all about business. You need to get to know them on a personal level. Ask about their children, ask about their family, ask what kind of, what their interests are. It's not all about, well, let me just go in and tell you how much your house is worth and get it on the market. Like, it's about getting to know them on a personal level. And there are so many people that, clients that turn friends. So
That's true.
yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I hear that a lot. And, buying a home is very personal. And when you're working with someone and they're opening up, and it's kind of natural to build that bond.
Yeah, it's emotional. It's an emotional
Yeah,
decision. And most of the time it is, somebody's biggest investment that they're ever going to make. So,
yeah, for sure.
Stacy, tell me, you've had incredible success. Your first year in the business, I'm showing 54 transactions, close to $11 million in volume in a city where the
yes,
average home price at that time was $200,000
right.
for market value. So you had incredible production and success. Where do you see yourself moving forward in the next 3 to 5 years?
So each year, I have a goal, and it's just to sell even if it's $100,000 more, sell a little bit more this year than I did last year. So just kind of keep slowly climbing that ladder is what my goal is.
Got it. Got it. And tell me, do you have any tips or maybe some tricks or some strategies for new real estate agents who are maybe new in the business, or for those who are thinking of getting their license? Is there something that you could share that would resonate with our audience? Like what is that? What is that first year? What tips or tricks that first year?
So just real estate can be overwhelming, and there's a fine line between your work life and your personal life. Like, I mean, there was times where I was working 7 days a week, answering calls, answering Zillow leads all the time. And I will say to new agents coming into the market, you have to hustle, you have to make a name for yourself, you have to build your clientele. But I'm to a point now to where, I don't have to answer the Zillow leads. Now, if it's slow, if I don't have a lot in my pipeline, of course I'm going to answer some Zillow leads. But you have to have a fine line, though, between, I guess, work and play, or work and family and stuff like that. There was one time, and I'll tell this story real quick. My son was playing baseball, and this was back in my first year, right when I started. And I just felt like I had to drop everything to go and meet a client and to show them a house and to do this and to do that. Well, this buyer wanted to see a house, and it had just came on the market. And I said, well, my son has a baseball game. Can we see it tomorrow? And this buyer was very demanding, wanted to see it right then. Well, my broker would normally show for me if I needed him to. He's done that before, but he had a showing scheduled, so he couldn't cancel that. So I missed about 3/4 of my son's baseball game to go and show this buyer a house. And they really didn't even like it. Didn't want to put an offer in on it or nothing. So ever since that, because my kids come first before anything, my kids and my husband. I told myself I will never, ever miss out on something of my children's just to go show somebody a house. And if a buyer is going to be demanding like that, I will not work with them.
Yeah.
So I will say to people coming in, like, don't let somebody treat you disrespectful. Be demanding, not be respectful of your time. And, it's just, there's a fine line with that. And I learned that lesson the hard way. But from that point on, I have never missed anything of my children, and I won't.
Yeah.
I just won't do it.
Thank you for that. What I'm hearing from you is that you hit the ground running, and
Yes.
you needed to establish some boundaries.
That's exactly right. That's a great way of putting it. But yes, to all the new agents coming in, you have to hustle. You have to make a name for yourself. You have to build up your clientele. Then it comes to a point where, you've done that. You've established a name for yourself, and then you can kind of, I guess, back off a little bit of the hustle. Now, I will tell them too, another key thing is follow up.
Yeah, my goodness.
Follow up. I followed up with people probably 10 plus times, over a year of follow-ups. And those have turned into listings. Those have turned into me writing contracts.
Yeah.
So if somebody says, oh, not right now, like follow up with them, even if it's just once a month or once every couple of months.
Yeah.
Follow up with them.
Yeah. I teach my students that 80% of the money is going to come in the follow-up.
Yes.
And it usually takes realistically about 5 conversations before they're ready to set an appointment.
Yep.
So you got to follow up.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, great comments on boundaries, because you do hear that real estate, like flexibility is one of the greatest things why people first choose. I don't know that that's why they always stay, but why they first choose a career.
Yes,
yeah.
it is.
But flexibility doesn't mean don't work hard. It means work hard, but prioritize the things that are most important to you. So,
and I learned that the hard way.
but now you learned it strong. Now you know, and you've set the boundaries. So, Stacy, we're going to jump into the lightning round. I'm going to ask you a question. Give me your answer, 60 seconds or less, mostly about you, just a little bit about you. So, is there a book or a podcast that you've read or listened to that you would recommend to the audience, and why?
So there's a local doctor here. His name is Dr. George Burrows. He's a chiropractor, and he has a podcast that's called Get Healthy Alabama. And I love to listen to his podcast. So that is something that I would definitely recommend. It's called GetHealthyAlabama.com.
That's great. I love that. I'll have to check it out. I'm not familiar with Alabama too much, but I'm going to check it out. If we had a time machine and you could go back to the day you started this journey, what advice would you give yourself?
To set boundaries.
We've covered that. Yep. Okay. And that's a good one. It's a great reminder. And yeah, that's perfect. If you could have dinner with one person, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Oh gosh. Probably my dad, just because he passed away whenever I was 13. So I would choose him.
That's a great choice. Tell us about your day yesterday. What'd you do for work yesterday?
So yesterday, there's a local coffee shop, support local. It's called Mocha's Coffee House, right off of exit 13 off of I-65 for anybody who is familiar with the Saraland area. I like to go there and work. So I did that. I got caught up on paperwork. I had to make sure there were everything in the files ready for 2 closings that I have coming up this week. We had a little bump in the road with one, so I had to make sure that I, handled all of that stuff. So a lot of paperwork, some follow-ups. I like to schedule my Facebook post for the week, so I went ahead and did that. And then I picked my daughter up from school, and that was it for the day.
Yeah, excuse me.
Well, Stacy, listen, thank you very much for sharing your time with us today. I would list my house with you. I certainly would.
Well, thank you, and I'm for you.
Yeah, I have no doubt that your conversation with Tina and I today has been inspiring for a number of people. It inspires me. It tells me that I did not hustle enough my first year. You put me to shame, but I've enjoyed my time with you today, and I know Tina has as well. I know your journey is going to inspire those who are interested in either getting their licenses or those newer agents who are hitting the ground running and need to build their business very quickly. And also for us who've been in the business forever, maybe to retool, maybe to think about retooling what we're doing. So I'm very thankful for that. And Tina is as well. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks, Stacy.
Yes, thank you.
And where can viewers find you online and follow your journey?
So my business name is Stacy Cole Realty Executives Bay Group. That's on Facebook, and then just my personal Facebook page is Stacy Reeves Cole. That's my maiden name in the middle, but Stacy Cole Realty Executives Bay Group.
Perfect. Thank you, Stacy.
Thanks,
Thank
Stacy.
you.
Thanks for listening to Unlocking Real Estate My First Commission. We hope today's stories and insights gave you that extra spark to keep moving forward in your real estate career. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It helps us reach more listeners like you. And don't forget you can watch this or other episodes on our YouTube channel. We'd also love to hear from you. Send your comments, key takeaways, or recommendations for future guests to unlockingrealestate@colibrirealestate.com.